Vice President Kamala Harris has been vocal about her pro-choice stance on the abortion debate, reiterating that message today when she was here in Orlando. Currently, Florida law restricts abortions to 15 weeks and does not have exceptions for rape or incest.
The ruling is under appeal, and as lawyers prepare to argue whether abortion should be further restricted in Florida, some have raised the question, how would these crimes actually be enforced? If caught, could a Florida woman be charged with murder or manslaughter for having an abortion? News 6 investigator Maris Badcock found out it has actually happened before in Florida.
Before Roe v. Wade in 1971, when most abortions were still illegal.
I don't have the money to take care of a child.
Florida successfully charged and convicted 23-year-old Shirley Wheeler with manslaughter, a case which received national attention, including the spotlight of 60 Minutes.
Then he started showing me colored pictures of the fetus and asked me how I could deny that was mine. And he said, just pretend like I'm your father. Now, why did you do it?
The crime? A Daytona Beach police lieutenant believed Wheeler had received an illegal abortion.
The circumstances of the girl coming into the hospital with a catheter still inserted, I started proceeding along and finally found the fetus in a funeral home being prepared for cremation. There's a possibility that if the child had been born, it would have survived as a human being.
That position was later refuted by other experts, according to news reports at the time, but the case continued. And according to the New York Times, Wheeler became the first woman in the U.S. convicted of manslaughter for having an abortion.
We had already had one, if not more, young ladies almost die from a illegal abortion.
Horace Smith prosecuted Wheeler's case.
Our position was that the law was violated.
And still practices law in Daytona Beach today.
The reason why the police came to me is that they didn't want this unknown individual killing people.
I guess some people think it's a question of morality, but I don't. Would people rather have you to have a child that you can't raise or take care of?
This is hard to watch. It's really hard to watch. Excuse me.
Nancy Stearns represented Wheeler during her appeal.
Had she been willing to give up the name of the person who performed what was an incomplete abortion, but the abortion, they would not have prosecuted her. And she felt, this is the one person who helped me. I'm not going to give up his name. And I just don't know that I would have been that strong.
Money wasn't the only reason Wheeler sought an abortion. She had given birth before, but Wheeler says it caused enough medical problems that doctors told her another pregnancy might kill her. That didn't stop prosecution, and Wheeler's case was only vacated after the Florida Supreme Court ruled the state's abortion law was too vague. Fast forward 50 years. Today, Florida law permits abortions up to 15 weeks, a restriction currently up for appeal. So, could a woman face the same charges today?
You'd have to see whether the crime satisfied the elements that are required for the state to prove that crime.
Stephen Kramer is a legal analyst for News 6.
Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, doesn't mean that it couldn't happen, but I think it's a lot less likely.
Another important piece of historical context here. In the 90s, a St. Petersburg woman shot herself in the stomach in an attempt to end her pregnancy. She was charged with manslaughter, and the case made it all the way up to the Florida Supreme Court. Now, justices ruled that women cannot be held criminally responsible for any behavior that might affect the health of their fetus, and her case was thrown out. Now, while women might not be charged here in Florida, it is happening in other states. For example, just a few months ago in Texas, a woman was charged with murder for self-aborting her baby. She was held at a $500,000 bond before the charges were abruptly dropped. Now, I found several other high-profile cases in other states of women being criminally charged after they received an abortion, have a miscarriage, or give birth to a stillborn. Head to our website after this show to read more about them. And of course, you can also find out more about Shirley Wheeler's story. Back to you.
Maris Badcock, thank you.